All right, so this is a practice on lines and angles formed by those lines and what we've learned thus far with those. So there's going to be no new material in here, but just to make sure you know how to do certain problems. So the first one says, for 1 through 5, use the figure to the right. Identify this special pair name for angles 9 and 13. So I need to find 9, which is right here. I need to use 13, which is right here. If you look, the transversal is this line right here, and then there's my parallel lines. Okay, well, I don't know if they're parallel right now. That doesn't say yet. That doesn't mean that they're not special. Okay, so if you look at your double lines, here's one, here's one. 9 is on the outside of the double lines and 13 is on the inside. So it's not interior or exterior. There's one of each. So if I look, this is in the upper left-hand corner. This is in the upper left-hand corner of its group of 4. So they do correspond to each other. So 9 and 13 are corresponding angles. Remember, corresponding angles are the only one that doesn't come with interior or exterior. Okay, next it says, given that N is parallel to P. So now they are telling us that the lines are parallel, N and P are. So given that N is parallel to P, and angle 8 is 103, so 103 degrees, find angle 1. So now let's look at 8 and 1. So here's 8, and here's 1. So here are my parallel lines. Here's my transversal. What kind of angles are those? So if you look at 1 and you look at 8, 1's on the outside of my parallel lines. 8 is also on the outside. So I'm going to start with exterior. And then if you look, they're on different sides of the transversal. So they're alternate sides. So those are alternate exterior angles. What do I know about alternate exterior angles? We know alternate exterior angles are congruent. So if they're congruent, that means that they're the same. So that means angle 1 must also be 103 degrees. This practice that I'm doing over here is just practice. It doesn't ask me for it, but it's, it doesn't hurt to think about those things. All right, next it says, given that L is parallel to M. So these two are parallel now. It says, in angle 8's 103, find angle 15. So here's angle 8. Here's angle 15. There's my parallel lines. There's my transversal that they both touch. All right, if you look at your parallel lines, 8 and 15 are on the inside, so interior. And if you look, they're on the same side of the transversal. So these are same side interior angles. What do we know about same side interior angles? They're supplementary. So I know that those two angles add to 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 103 to see what that would be, and that is 77 degrees. So let me move this over here. Angle 15 is 77 degrees. All right, next one. Given that L is parallel to M, so we're still using the same set of parallel lines. Let me just erase the ones I circled. And then they say that measure of angle 6 is 5x plus 14, angle 15 is 79. Find the value of x. So we have to see what kind of angles 6 and 15 are. So here's 15. Oops. Here's 15 and here's 6. All right, so if you look, I still have my parallel lines highlighted from or darkened from the last one. 6 and 15 are on the inside, but they're on alternate sides of the transversal, right? So they're alternate interior angles. We know alternate interior angles are congruent. So I know that if they're congruent, I can set them equal to each other. So I'm going to do 5x plus 14 is equal to 79. And now I just have to solve for x. So subtract 14 from both sides. I get 5x is equal to 65. And then divide by 5. And I get x is equal to 13. All right, next one. Given that N is parallel to P, so now they're talking about the other two lines, so I'm going to erase what I have highlighted here. All right, N is parallel to P, so there's my parallel lines. I'll thicken them so I can see them. And now I'm comparing 12 and 14, and it's find the value of x. So I need to know what kind of angles 12 and 14 are. So first, let's circle 12 and 14. So there's 12, there's 14. They both touch this transversal right here. So now, if I look, they're both on the inside of my parallel lines, so interior, but they're on the same side of the transversal. So these are same side interior angles. I know same side interior angles are supplementary. So supplementary means that they add to 180. So I know that this plus this is equal to 180. 9x plus 11 plus 8x minus 1 equals 180. Combine like terms, 17x. 11 and negative 1 is plus 10 equals 180. Subtract 10 from both sides. 17x is equal to 170, and then divide by 17, and we get x is 10. Okay. All right, now let's move on to this next group of 3 right here. Number 6 says, well, this says for 6 through 8, use the diagram to the right. So we're using this new diagram over here. So 6 says, given that L is parallel to M, so I'll put my little parallel lines right there. And the measure of angle 1 is 7x plus 6. The measure of angle 3 is 11x minus 10. Find the value of x and the measure of angle 7. So first off, let's worry about finding x, and we're going to look to see what kind of angles 1 and 3 are. So here are my parallel lines. Here's 1, here's 3. This is my transversal. If you look, 1's on the outside of my parallel lines, 3's on the inside. So I'm going to check for corresponding. In this group of 4, it's in the upper left-hand corner. In this group of 4, it's in the upper left-hand corner. So they are corresponding angles. We know corresponding angles are congruent. So corresponding angles, congruent. So if corresponding angles are congruent, I can set them equal to each other to solve for x. 7x plus 6 equals 11x minus 10. There are no like terms on the left side. There are no like terms on the right side. So I'm going to balance my equation by subtracting 7x from both sides. I have 6 equals 4x minus 10. Add 10 to both sides. 16 equals 4x, and then divide both sides by 4, and I get x equals 4. So this problem asked me to find x, so I have that so I can box it. And then it also asked me to find angle 7. Okay, so if I look at where angle 7 is, it's right here. So I say to myself, they didn't give me angle 7, but they did give me angle 3, and I know that these two form a linear pair. So I'm going to find angle 3 first. 11 times 7, 4, it was 4. 11 times 4 minus 10, which is 34 degrees. So now I know this angle is 34 degrees, so I can do 180 minus that, and I get 146 degrees. So now I know that that angle, angle 7, equals 146 degrees. Okay. All right, now I'm going to erase everything I drew on this because now we have a completely different problem. Moving on to the next one. Given that L is parallel to M, measure of angle 14 is 7x plus 16. Measure of angle 15 is 11x minus 16. Find the value of x and the measure of angle 16. All right, so I need to look and see how 14 and 15 are related. So here's 14, here's 15. Remember, these are my parallel lines. This is my transversal. 14 and 15 are the inside of my parallel lines, and they're on the same side of their transversal. So they are same side interior. Same side interior angles are supplementary. That means they add to 180. So I'm going to do 7x plus 16 plus 11x minus 16 equals 180. On the left-hand side, there are like terms that I need to combine. The 7x and the 11x, which is 18x. And then the 16 and the negative 16, which is 0. So I have equals 180. I was just double checking to make sure I copied it right, and I did. I was checking right here, and I was like, okay, did I accidentally copy the wrong thing? I didn't. They're right there. All right, divide both sides by 18, and I get x is 10. So now that I know x is 10, I can box that because it did ask me to find x. And then it also asked me to find angle 16. So now I need to look at angle 16, which is right here. okay? So there's two ways of doing this. I could find angle 15 and then see that they're supplementary and do 180 minus that, or I can realize 16 has the same measure as 14. So that's what I'm going to do because I feel like it's easier. I'm going to do 7 times 10 plus 16, and I get the measure of angle 16 is 86 degrees. Okay, last one. Given that L is parallel to M in this section, that is, 8 and 11, they gave me the measure of find X and the measure of angle 16. So let's start by locating 8 and 11. So these are my parallel lines. Let me erase this right here. These are my parallel lines. Okay. And then here's 8 and here's 11. Now if I say, okay, what's the transversal that they both touch? Well, that's M, right? They didn't give me that these lines were parallel. So the fact that they didn't give me that those lines were parallel, I can't do this problem. This problem is not possible. Now what people accidentally say is that they'll say, oh, those are alternate interior angles. They're only alternate interior angles if these two lines are parallel, which they are not. They clearly intersect. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Similar thoughts to the last one, okay? So it says, in the diagram, find the measure of any angles that you can. All right, so I know that these two lines are parallel, and I was given that this angle right here is 71. So 71 touches this transversal. That means I can find all the angles on that transversal. So I know that this is 71 because they're vertical angles. 180 minus 71, this is 109 because that's a linear pair. Vertical angles, 109. Alternate interior angles, this is 71, 109, 71, 109. Okay, now I come over to the next group of 8. And what people accidentally do is they'll start putting 109, 71, which we don't know any of these. Right? We don't know any of these because we don't know any of the angles on this. And these two transversals, these two transversals are not parallel. They didn't give us that. So that's the only information that I can find. I can only find that group. All right, next one. Given the diagram, solve for any variable. So the first thing you have to do is decide which variable I'm solving for. So I see I have a W, a Y, and an X. So since there's two Y's, I'm going to solve for Y first. So I look now and I say, okay, what kind of angles are these two angles? Here's my parallel lines. They're on the inside and they're on alternate sides of the transversal. So these are alternate interior angles, and I know alternate interior angles are congruent. So I'm going to do 4y minus 2 is equal to 3y plus 6. Balance my equation. There's no like terms on either side, so I'm going to subtract 3y from both sides to get my y's all on one side. I have y minus 2 equals 6. Add 2 to both sides, and I now know that y is equal to 8. So I can put that on my answer line. Now, really, really important, people forget this step. After you find your first variable, you plug it back in. So I'm going to do 4 times 8 minus 2, which is 30 degrees. So I'm going to cross this off, and I'm going to put 30 degrees right here. 3 times 8 plus 6, which is 30 degrees also, and it better be. Otherwise, I made a mistake, so this is 30 degrees. Now I'll put this is 30 degrees. This is equal to 30. And then to get the other one, remember these are linear pairs here, so I just have to do 180 minus that, which is 150. So this is 150, 150, 150, and then this is equal to 150. So now I can find W. Notice there's an equation right there. I have 2W equals 30, so dividing by 2, I have W is 15. My other equation I see that I have, 5x minus 4 equals 150. So I'm going to do 5x minus 4 equals 150. Add 4 to both sides. 5x is equal to 154. Divide both sides by 5. And I get x equals, this is not a beautiful answer, but it's also not that ugly. So I'm going to do the mental math here. I do 15 divided by 5 is 3. 4 divided by 5, it doesn't go in there. It's 0 times, but then I still have 4/5 left. 4/5 is 0.8. So let me check my answer here. Yeah, I did it correctly, 30.8. Okay? All right, let's talk about writing equations of lines in parallel and perpendicular lines. We're not going to do tons of these. You're going to do more practice on your own. The first one says write an equation of a line that's parallel to this line and passes through this point. So I gave you a point, and then I gave you this line, therefore I gave you this slope. So I gave you the slope is 3, and then I gave you the point is 1,5. So now I can write my equation of my line. Y minus y1, which is 5, equals m, which is 3, times x minus x1, which is 1. And there's my answer. Super easy, right? Next one, write an equation that is perpendicular to this line. I know the slope is -1/4, passes through this point, -2, 6. So I'm not going to rewrite my point down. It's right there, but I will say that I need a perpendicular slope. So perpendicular slope is the opposite reciprocal. The opposite of a negative number is a positive number. The reciprocal of 1/4 is 4/1, which is just 4. So now I have y minus y1, which is 6, equals m. Oops, I almost just wrote down the letter m. M, which is 4, times x minus x1, which is a -2. So since it's a double negative, I'm going to turn it into a positive. And there's my answer for that one. All right, last one's a two-part question. It says, consider the line and point shown to the right. The first one, A, says, write an equation of the line that's parallel to the original and passes through the point. And then the other one says, write an equation of a line that's perpendicular. So it's very similar to 11 and 12, except for it's in a graph instead of written down. So remember, I need two things. I need the slope, and then I also need the point. All right, so the point is at 5, -6. So I'll write that down. Now I need the slope of this line. So I need to find 2 points. So here's a point, here's a point. And I'm going to do rise over run. So this goes up 3/1. So up 3/1 is 3. So the slope is 3. All right, so now I can do these two questions. Write an equation of a line that's parallel to. So it's going to have the same slope. Y minus y1, which is a -6, so double negative turns to a positive, equals m, which is 3, times x minus x1, which is 5. And there's my line that's parallel to that. B, write an equation of a line which is perpendicular to the original. So if it's going to be perpendicular, the slope is going to be the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of a positive number is a negative number. The reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. So I have y minus a -6, so y plus 6 equals -1/3, parentheses x minus x1, which is 5. And there's your answer to that one.